In the spirit of Halloween, paranormal or not, what is the scariest, creepiest or most unsettling experience of your life? When I was 16 in the mid-90s, aka the I know everything, I'm invincible and you can't stop me age, I got in a fight with an acquaintance while a whole bunch of us were hanging out at his house. Stupid fight, can't remember what about, but I decided fuck it, I was going home. I lived about 5 miles away, but I didn't have a car, and since it was 2 a.m., there were no buses. I was going to walk home. In the middle of the night, though a not as safe as it seemed neighborhood, as a tiny 16-year-old girl. So I did. I think, in hindsight, my friends either didn't believe I was going to do it, or were too startled by the sudden argument to realize what I was doing. I left the house and started hoofing it. About a mile out, the suburban housing neighborhood melted into a main street, with highway access. I started to notice a grayish minivan following me. It would follow me, pass me, turn a corner, and about 3 blocks later, it would do the same thing. I mean, really obvious what it was doing. I crossed over to the other side of the street, so I was walking the opposite of traffic flow, and thus no car could come up behind me. It kept doing it, on the other side of the street. About a mile later, there was a 24-hour Fred Meyer, West Coast USA chain grocery/all-purpose store, lights bright, but parking lot empty-ish. I immediately crossed the parking lot and went to head inside. Just before I got to the doors, the minivan that had been following me, pulled up into one of the parking spots. A guy called out from the driver's side and said, "I don't want you to walk over here, just stay there and listen. I just wanted to let you know what I was doing. I saw you walking a while back, but I also saw a dark car that was following you. A couple of times you went to turn around, or stopped, so it started following you down a parallel side street. When I saw it, I started to follow you both, just to make sure you were safe. Go inside the store, and call someone to come pick you up, please. I haven't seen the car since you headed across the lot." He waited until I was inside the store, and then pulled away. I didn't have anyone to call, so I just let the night cashier know what was going on, and hung out with her for about an hour and a half. Then I finished the walk home. I've never forgotten the incident, or that man, whoever he was. During the walk, I never saw the dark car he mentioned, but I've always been convinced he saved my life that night. I was on a small base in Afghanistan in 2003, just outside of Kabul, right before you got into the mountains heading toward Pakistan. It was an Al-Qaeda camp before we bombed the shit out of it and took it over. We established an observation post, guard tower, on the roof of one of the buildings that was still standing. It was about 5 stories and nothing but concrete, no windows, no doors, though there were spaces where they once were, and debris that made it look like it may have been an office building/hasty medical facility. Then you go into the bathrooms. Dried blood everywhere, clogging the drains on the floor, in the urinals, in the toilets, bloody handprints and spatters on the walls. The blood had even pooled on the floor due to clogged drains and hardened in place. This was every bathroom in the building. They were clearly used to slaughter people. At night, if you sat and listened, you would start to hear crying. I don't believe in God, an afterlife, or anything, really, that you can't provide concrete proof of. I heard that shit, and I can't explain it other than to say I had heard stories of it from people and gave it a try, so maybe it was all in my head. I sat on the stairs, middle of the building, maybe 3rd or 4th floor, and didn't hear anything for a while, started thinking it was bullshit. Then I started to hear it. I thought maybe I was being fucked with, so I decided to go search where I thought I heard it coming from. I go left and start looking. It wasn't a very complex building. A few big rooms on either side that were sparsely scattered with debris. Easy to see they were empty. No one in the bathrooms. I stopped to hone in on the sound, it's coming from the other end of the building. Still could be someone messing with me, so I head over there for a look. Same thing, nothing. I listen again, and it's back to coming from the opposite side of the building. I decided at that point that, real or joke, I'm out. Everyone heard it, we all eventually just ignored it. Could have been the wind, the pipes, or lots of other things. Still was creepy at the time. Several months before moving countries, my mother called up one of those weird future reading people on TV and gave him very little info about herself, mainly name and age. The dude then opens his book and starts reading her future. He proceeds to guess that she has 2 sons. He then proceeds to tell her that she will be flying overseas for a reunion in December 2005. We laughed it off until some months later my father calls and tells us he got a visa and he can bring us there, overseas. 5 years apart, my father bought us tickets for December 2005. We were reunited. We only realized it became true sometime soon after we arrived. Not sure what book that dude had, but I want it, lol. So I hear that Galveston Island is one of the most haunted places in America due to all the history. Look it up. Last April I stayed there and had visited Bishop's Palace because it looked intriguing and fancy, and hearing the history attached to it was astonishing as well. I heard that in a certain part of the house, slaves used a back stairwell and bathroom to navigate throughout the house so everyone was undisturbed because slaves weren't considered people at the time. Anyhow, I went to that part and I kept getting this weird feeling that someone was near me and I think I heard wood creaking. I knew it was not me that was making the wood do that, and even if I was I could easily distinguish it. Nobody was near me, and absolutely no one would go on that side of the house unless they came from the basement. Also, that specific part of the house was deathly cold while the rest was room temperature or cool. I decided to just walk away and join my tour group out of fear. I heard that ghosts haunted that house as well, by the way. I just remembered a creepier story. Paranormal creepy. So I was about 7 or 8, and lost a tooth that day. I shared a room with my little sister. So it was bedtime and it was raining outside. I loved rainy nights and decided to open the blinds a bit. I have my tooth under my pillow and went to sleep. I woke up in the middle of night, and I looked to my sister's bed and saw a figure on it. It looked like a woman, wearing a dress from the late 1800s, but her waist was very, very thin, and had very long skinny fingers. Almost like the other mom from Coraline. This thing was sitting on the side of the bed, stroking my sister's hair. I started to freak out and wanted to see if it was real. I threw one of my stuffed toys at it, but it went low and she did not stop doing what she was doing. I screamed for my mom as loud as I can, but she never came. I cried myself to sleep hoping it will be gone while I hid under the blankets. I thought it might have been the tooth fairy, but all creepy. I was about 15 years old when this happened. Me and 3 of my friends were watching a horror movie, Paranormal Activity. I know they're terrible but also really scary when you're young. There was a huge snowstorm that night and we were in one of my friend's house. Her parents were out of town so we had it all for ourselves. It was on a country road and the nearest house was about a mile away. While watching the movie, we notice a blinking light outside. We go up to the window to investigate and we see a car parked on the side of the road just across the house. The hazards were turned on and some of the doors looked open. Feeling brave, me and the other guy decide to go check it out, thinking the car's just stuck in the snow. We get there and all 4 doors are wide open, the engine is still running, and the music is blasting. Nobody in sight. We saw tracks going towards the field behind the house so we ran back outside, went upstairs and locked ourselves in the bedroom. We stayed there for what felt like hours until the cops arrived and towed the car. Turned out to be nothing, probably a stolen car and the guys didn't want to get caught, but we were all really high that night so we freaked out. For a while I truly thought I was in my own horror movie, lol. I grew up in a very old house that I, and my family, are pretty sure is casually haunted. Small items routinely go missing and then show up at random places. For example, on multiple occasions TV remotes or keys would go missing. All couch cushions would be picked up and looked under, but when you left a room and came back the remote would be sitting dead center of the couch in the exact center of the middle cushion. One time my mom's keys went missing for several days and they were found in the exact center of our driveway one morning after mom jokingly asked two ghosts to give the keys back. Creepier things have happened. Once my mom got up in the middle of the night to go pee and saw a little girl run down our hallway. She thought it was my 3-year-old sister out of bed. It wasn't. My sisters and I shared a room till I was 15, and for a long time we had a bedroom door that stuck on the carpet that you had to really put your weight into to open. One night while we were talking before bed it flew open. Sometimes my parents would do that to try to joke with us. But there was no one there. Okay, so this happened when I was in the 7th grade. I had to do a school project where me and my group had to reenact a Shakespeare play. I don't remember exactly what play it was, but I remember a lot of the scenes took place in a forest, so after school one day we went out to the forest to film the scenes we needed. When me and my friend were done filming some of our scenes we decided to walk through the forest a bit. As we are walking I noticed something in the distance, so I stopped to look at it. Keep in mind this was during broad daylight, so as I'm looking at this thing in the distance way across the forest I notice it's a really dark figure and almost in the shape of a human, but not exactly. This freaked me out, so I pointed out to my friend to make sure I wasn't crazy, and sure enough he sees it too. Then as I'm sort of poking my head out from the side of a tree to look at this thing I decide to move my head to the other side of the tree to get a better look. That's when this thing does the exact same thing as me, if it's mimicking my movement. We both were super scared, so we ran as far as away from there as possible. To this day I still wonder what it was that I saw.